Welcome back to the Now Morning Show. It's time for us to shine a spotlight on the continued conversation with the Children's Authority about keeping your child safe during the July-August vacation.
We continue our conversation about children's safety, especially during the vacation period. This morning, let me welcome the team lead of Investigation and Intervention Unit at the Children's Authority, Javed Abdool. Good morning to you, sir.
Good morning.
How are you doing this morning?
I'm all right.
So last time, we spoke to Children's Authority, we were speaking more about general safety, talking about hazards around the home, safety at camps, parentification even. This morning, let's dive a bit more to the online side of things. Well, we know we live in 2025, right? A lot of children on devices constantly.
Yes.
What would you say to parents who find it to be convenient, that it keeps them occupied for the best part?
I know it's a hot topic, especially in 2025 where we have social media being a big thing. The presence on social media for children is very important to them. And also for parents, they use it as sort of a babysitter. All right? Now, while there are good things and bad things about social media, it's important to understand that it must be monitored. All right, it must be monitored in a way that you can know what your child is doing online, what they are looking at, who they are communicating with, what apps they are using. And it's also important that you need to have some sort of control over this via linking it to your device or some sort of other mechanism that you put in place.
Now, it's not just social media we have a concern about, right? Because they have games, they have YouTube, or does that fall under social media as well?
It kind of falls under device use.
Right.
But to say that there are so many things out there now that some parents don't even know about. So that is very important to keep a check, join parenting forums on the internet to see what's new, what's happening, what's trending, so that you know what to look out for.
What are some of the things you should be looking out for?
Some of the things, basic, you could start with YouTube, Facebook, TikTok, Instagram. Those are the most popular ones. But there are some other ones that I know my colleagues were sharing with me that children use now to play games and to chat with friends while playing games.
Yeah.
But it's very easy that you can get lost and find yourself into other parts of it where you can be speaking to predators or persons that you can't see, you don't know their true motive.
What about the actual device and using the actual device? Is it harmful for, I know a lot of them would put on your parents, you're the one the children making that noise, they're watching YouTube, so you buy them headphones. They put on the headphones and now they in their own world with the headphones on right through, watching this device, listening to the whatever they're listening to. Can this pose any threat to them eyesight-wise, hearing-wise?
Certainly. It needs to be monitored because for children who are developing, it's important to safeguard their eyesight, their hearing, and even their posture. So there are new things now like children-specific headphones where it only allows the volume to go that high. There are also something called a blue light block filter for glasses. So it doesn't affect your eyesight, but it affects the brightness of the screen. But these are not things that should be used to allow the child to be on it whole day.
Right.
But it can be used to assist.
One of the things we always measure as adults is our screen time, right? Sometimes your phone does it automatically for you. It tells you this is how much time you spent on the screen this week. Is that something we should be monitoring with children as well?
Definitely. It cannot be all free for all because, as I said, for children especially, already it can be physiologically dangerous for them. It can also be psychologically dangerous because a child's brain is still developing. So by being on this screen time, studies would have shown that it affects the child's ability to develop, to self-regulate, to be psychologically present, to be able to manage their own emotions effectively. And that is why it should be managed.
But it's how do you manage it? How much time is okay for screen time for a child per day or
there's
per
a
week?
20-20-20 rule.
Right.
So for every 20 minutes, you take a 20 minutes break and you need to look away at something further for another 20 minutes. In that
20 minutes?
20 minutes.
So every 20 minutes, you take a
20-minute break. And it could be that you encourage your children to get up and do something else. Go and wash a little wares. Go and make up the bed, or go and play cricket outside. I don't know if children still play pitch and those kind of things.
And marbles and things.
Yeah, but try to do something physical.
Yeah.
Not on your device.
Right. Let's go back a bit to the predators you mentioned earlier when it comes to, they end up in these chat forums or they end up in these games. How do parents guard against that? Because, for example, if your child is playing Roblox or whatever, one of those games, there is conversation that can happen, and they will be talking to their friends from school or whatever the case may be, and then you might hear about a random person that you don't know. How do you then guard against that, even if you don't hear about the person?
Before we even reach to that, under the new Sexual Offences Act, it makes grooming an offense just as if you were to penetrate, right? So it is important to know that it's a criminal offense. And to guard against that, you need to be aware of who your child is chatting with, where your child is going on the internet, what they are looking at. It doesn't mean passing every half hour and looking over their shoulder, okay, because these children are so crafty. They could switch in between screens. And I would have even noticed, even though you delete the app, they know how to go on Google the long time way and put in the website and do what they need to do.
Yeah.
So you really need to have a check and balance, whether it means using some sort of Google device to link it so you could see exactly who they're chatting with, what apps, how long they're staying, what they're looking at, and make sure it's wholesome content.
Javed, you're expecting a lot out of parents.
I know it's tough, but...
Because they have parents they're not up on the devices, they're not up on the technology, right?
Yeah.
And if you have, for example, I don't know, like a teenage child who might be way more advanced on the technology than you are, when you try to do these things, they know how to show you what you need to see and hide the rest. How do we protect teenagers if they are so already guarded naturally in part of their adolescent phase growing up? They're already guarded. How do we then penetrate that guard to say, I'm really here to support you and we need to be working together?
Firstly, for the parents who may not be technologically savvy, kind of get a trusted friend or a trusted family member who might be younger and a little more versed in it so that they could teach you, they could show you, they could explain certain things to you so that you are aware. And then you can also go on the internet and just do a basic Google search and see some of the things that come up and make yourself aware. But also you can even call the Children's Authority at 996 for any type of assistance that you may require, and someone will be able to link you with the resources.
The thing about it, I feel like every day, every week you might have to go on and get updated with whatever the latest thing is, because it often changes so frequently.
Yes.
How do we as parents, how often should we be checking on those websites to see, all right, what's new? What's the latest thing that they crazing about?
I feel like every week there's some new fad. Every week there's some new discussion going on. There's some new app. So you need to be up to date. You may not always be, but try your best to be.
How does this is we're talking about a generation that spent a lot of time during COVID, right? They would have been learning during COVID, playing during COVID, and socializing during COVID. And we saw it was a little difficult when they went back to school, the transition back to school, and we still see effects of it today. If the child is not as sociable as some, if they're more reserved, they're a little quiet, but they're online and they do anything online, should we be concerned as parents about their ability to socialize in real life?
It is not something that's a major concern. However, there are certain ways you can navigate certain children like that. It doesn't mean anything is wrong with your child if they're not a socialite. But you need to be careful with the way you speak to them. You can't say anything derogatory. You can't call them a loner. Don't call them any names or allude to it, but you can try to do things like engaging them in certain camps that mightn't be where you're always at the forefront, but you might be doing things in a big class like painting or doing some activity as a group where you're not single and always present. So you could look like a robotics camp or anything along that line. So you're still participating and socializing physically, but you don't have to be the forefront all the time. And you get the child to build confidence. Certain things such as sports can do these things. So you need to work with your child, try with your child. You would know your child. Have an open conversation with your child. Try to be honest with your child, and hopefully it works out.
Yeah, and it goes back. Every time we talk about the relationship between parents and children, that communication aspect of things seems to be the most important part in order to protect them, in order to be informed as to what is going on in their life as well.
Yes.
So, I mean, can you reiterate for us the importance of communication and how to get it started? If you're at the teenage years and we already have this tension between us, how do I penetrate that wall?
Right, so this is what we're trying to do. Don't let it reach that stage. So you
Right.
start from young, having little conversations with your children about how their day was. Don't ask them what you did on the internet. Ask them what they saw today, who they spoke with, what they spoke about, so that you build this trust and you can deepen the conversation you have with them as they get older. Because you really want your child to be honest with you, because as you say, some parents aren't technologically savvy and you would probably never know what they're doing online. So you need to have that bond with your child. You need to know your child. Every child is unique and different. So what may work for one child may not work for the other one. So you need to know your child to know what you need to do in the best interest of your child.
Yeah. Now, growing up, I remember my mother used to open my book bag and check my books and see what's going on in school for the day. Even though she asked me the questions as well, she just double checking and going in the school bag to make sure everything is everything. Is that something we should be doing? Should we be going through the devices, checking and seeing what their internet history looks like, what their downloads look like, things like that?
Every day you should be doing that. You should keep a check on these things. It's very important because it's so easy to get carried away. Remember, a child is still developing. They're not mature as yet. It's a little bit easier to pull wool over a child's eye than an adult. Not saying that it's impossible, but that's why you need to keep this extra check on the children.
And in terms of keeping that extra check on the children, how do I make sure that somebody not pulling the wool over my eye while I watching what they're doing? Because it gets so complicated and you can get overwhelmed so easily by all of it. I feel like a lot of parents, I've heard a lot of parents complain and say it's so much to try and keep ahead of and to keep on top of.
Certainly, but where the online presence is concerned, I know some of my colleagues do share that they are parenting forums on Facebook, on Instagram, on these various social media platforms for parents, and they kind of talk about what's happening now, what's the latest trend, something they may have noticed, so that you could at least pay attention to what's happening.
Okay. All right, Javed, before we wrap, just any advice you want to give to parents this morning?
Please, 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 you don't want anything to happen to your children this July, August vacation. So please be mindful of who you leave to supervise your children. It cannot be somebody that you met yesterday or somebody that you don't trust 100% with your own life. So, and please be mindful not to leave them home unsupervised. And a general reminder, don't leave the younger children to care for the older ones, because you can get yourself into real problems with that.
Yeah. Javed, thank you so much for joining us this morning and for sharing this. I hope that the parents listening are able to take it and apply it as needed.
It's a pleasure to be here to remind.
Yeah, man. Ladies and gentlemen, Javed Abdool, Team Lead for Investigation and Intervention Unit at the Children's Authority of Trinidad and Tobago. Remember, you can always give them a call at 996 or 800-2014. That's the hotline for the Children's Authority. We take a quick break and we come back with more in our morning show. Stick around.